Hello, everyone. Welcome to Overcome Podcast. And today with me, I have Armon Adibi, which is a top contest prep coach, dietitian, NPC Judge, former NPC competitor with a lot of titles on his belt. And since 2016, Armon actually started his own line of bodybuilding supplements called Adibi Army. So, without further ado, Armon Adibi, thank you very much for joining.
How are you?
Good, my friend. Pretty good. Thanks for joining today. Amo, I actually invited you because I was looking to some of your updates, and you look incredible, by the way, based on your last update. But I didn't realize that you've been going through so many injuries over and over throughout the past couple of years, I think, or even more, right? Talk a little bit about that journey.
Um, so most of my injuries are not even from the gym. I don't even know where to begin. Right here, I got a black eye. I'm getting over a black eye. I'm on TikTok. People saying, "Did you get beat up? Did you get beat up?" I was like, "Yeah, by my 3-year-old son. Like we play fight every night. He hits me like right here, and he hit me. I was like, no, I didn't get beat up. My 3-year-old son punched me. But um, I guess my first injury was I was young. I was born with a hernia, so I always had a hernia, but it developed more when I started working out. And so when I was about 20 years old, I competed a couple times already. I started competing at 18. It started bothering me. I had an umbilical one and an equal one, and so I had to get surgery on those. And so those were my first surgeries, and
And you said
that
and you
was
said that the vast majority were not related to the gym or workout or anything, really?
yeah. So my umbilical hernia I was born with. So some people are born with hernias and it closes up, but the inigual one was from lifting. It was from deadlifting. I was trying to keep up with my training partner and my best friend. He was about twice my size at that time, and that was just from improper breathing and not wearing a belt and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, or it could have been from soccer too. A lot of them, because I was a soccer player too, so a lot of people just from athletics would get hernias. So who knows? It's just from athletics, but I had surgery on that. That wasn't a big deal. That hernia surgeries aren't really a big deal. I don't know. A lot of people have had them. They're pretty common in bodybuilding
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
But yeah, that was my first surgery.
But throughout your, I would say, the time that you were competing and you were peaking, were you pretty healthy at that time? No injuries at all?
You know, let's see. My first major surgery um, was pretty much it's kind of like kind of maybe a blessing in disguise in the body for bodybuilding because I had it. I'm almost 40 now. I'm 39 now. When I was 29, my bodybuilding career was pretty much going like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like at like the pinnacle, I injured my shoulder. I got in a car wreck. I got hit from behind, and I grabbed the wheel and it kind of tore it back from that. So I had to do a surgery, and I tried to find the best surgeon possible, which was a Texas Rangers surgery since we live, in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the MRI showed my rotator cuff was torn. So I was like, okay, yeah, we'll go in there, we'll fix that, and then your rehab will probably be about 4 months, and then you'll be back to the gym. So at that time, I just competed at a contest, which it's a long story. Some political stuff was involved, and I was supposed to do USA's like 4 to 5 months later, and go from there and get my pro card and go from there. And back then, um, like 10, 15, like I would say 15 plus years ago, they gave men about 8 pro cards a year, right?
Wow, that's it.
Okay. Now they give about 800 to 1,000 pro cards out a year.
Wow, that's insane.
So when you got your pro card, then it was like, pretty much the whole world knew, when you knew who you were. So it was a big deal then. And then, as soon as you got your pro card, they weren't going to give it to you until you could, be able to compete as a pro. Because what's the point of getting your pro? Well, now it's different because the industry's changed. But at
Yeah.
that point, when there was money in the sport still, or whatever you want to call it, you know, they're not going to give someone their pro card if they're not ready to compete as a pro.
Yeah.
So if you can't step on that stage to compete as a pro, well, there's no point in getting a pro card. So a lot of complicated stuff went on people just don't know about, like people paying off judges, just all kinds of behind the scenes stuff people didn't understand. You would, like, I was at one time I was with Muscle Tech Nutrition. That was pretty much the biggest company at that time you could be with, and they would actually have sit down meetings with you, the company, and part of the IFBB, and they're like, you're in the running, obviously, this year. Should we push you through this year and get a pro card? Or they would kind of leave it open. Or do you want to stay an amateur a few years longer and ride that out? And a lot of people are like, oh, of course I would take my pro card. Who wouldn't? And it was different because, you could do better. Let's say, like, at that time, I was doing better as an amateur and making more money than I would have if I turned pro at that moment, because you have more like hype and anticipation behind it. And so, and for the brand, it was just very complicated. So I was like,
It's
no,
interesting. It's interesting you say that because nowadays it's so different. Nowadays, it feels like people give the impression that they are making a lot of money just because they have a bunch of followers, but not necessarily the number of followers means real money, you know?
doesn't mean anything. I mean, I'm friends with a lot of the top guys now, and I prep some of them. They don't make any money at all, zero. Um, you know, when I retired, like in 2000, part of the reason, because when I was doing it, I was able to make money from it. There were so many different outlets. You had your magazine contract, you had your supplement contract, you had your DVD sales, you had your like private online shoots. There were so many different avenues to make money, and all of a sudden, like, they were all gone. Like, when things advanced, like the print died, the supplement contracts started not paying bodybuilders. Like, why pay a bodybuilder a few $100,000 a year for a contract when you can get 20 men's physique and bikini girls to do it for free?
Yeah.
So that it's like, I get it as a business and marketing. So that's when that all changed too. So all the big contracts, the a couple $100,000 a year contracts, those went away. So you have all these guys, like making them, a living, and then overnight, like, boom, time to get another job, and your dream or whatever you want to call it's over with. So it was a hard adjustment period for a lot of people. Luckily, I started prepping people at a very young age, and so I had that to fall back on and do. But a lot of people, they just went to just find regular jobs, and a lot of them didn't get an education because they started competing and or skill set, and that was their whole life.
Yeah.
And they made a mistake of not doing that. Then you're not planning, like, one injury, you're done from bodybuilding or whatever. Like, that happened with me, my shoulder. And so they were just like, what do I do now? And
Yeah.
so a lot of them went from living this great lifestyle, like with this mini fame and fitness, like everybody knew who you were in the fitness world, to just being a nobody. So it was hard for a lot of people to transition. But going back to my surgery, that's when I had my surgery, like at that point where, that was the time where I was either going to say, for some reason, okay, I'm just going to, if I didn't get the surgery, I was just going to quit for no reason, or going to that next level, I was going to push my body, harder with the bodybuilding supplements and all that to make it to the next level, which I didn't really want to, but it was just a part of it.
Yeah.
And, to push that envelope even harder. And so I had to have that surgery. Like I said, so he went in there, and then he saw my labrum was torn also. So he did fix my labrum, because, he's used to working on baseball players. When you're playing baseball, if you repair your labrum, your career's over because you can't snap your arm back anymore. Your range of motion's like not as good. As bodybuilders, we don't care, right? Because we just need enough range of motion to press.
Yes.
We don't need to have our arm all the way back there like a
Mm-hmm.
baseball player does. So he didn't repair that. And so after surgery, I wasn't feeling okay. I'm like, so something's not right. I did all my PT. So we had to go right back in and do a second surgery on the shoulder.
Oh shoot! Really?
Yeah, and that put me out of it put me out of upper body training for 2 years. Exactly.
2 years, no
Two
training at
full
all.
years. No working out, not a 5 pound dumbbell curl, nothing. And that's kind of the time where I started working out. Um, but right before destination was Plano, Metroflex. And then I remember it converted over to destination at around that time. And so I just started to work out lightly again there. So that was pretty rough to be that long out when I knew that it was my time to really go to the next
Well,
level.
this is really crazy because you were at your peak competing, showing up in magazines and everything, and suddenly you're there not able to train and not able to work out for 2 years. Did this actually have a lot of effect on your mental health? How did you cope with that?
Um, so I mean, bodybuilding was, it was my life, but I still, enjoyed life. I wasn't one of those type of people that would just stay shut in all day and eat, sleep, and train. I had a life. I bring my meals wherever I went. You know how bodybuilding is. You do
Mm-hmm.
it. It's very extreme. You've got to, everything counts. It's a full lifestyle, and it's really hard. It's not for everybody to do. And so at first it was just like, this sucks. I'll be out a few months because, excuse me. At the time, my coach was Hani. That's Phil Heath's coach. That's Hottie Chupon's coach. So he's like, "You're fine, dude." Because I was devastated. He's like, "You're fine. Get your shoulder surgery. We'll get your pro card then, and we'll take off." And you know, he Hani is not the kind of coach to BS around. He would even take on clients if he didn't think he could make them a top pro. So during that time, he's like, I believe we can make you top 10, one of the top 10 in the world. And so I was like, yeah, and so that's where my mindset was. And so this happened. And at first I was okay. I was like, okay, I'm going to take a break and, I'm going to rehab, get past this, and then we'll get back to where we were. Not a big deal. But then we had to go there a second time. Yes, I started getting extremely depressed. I mean, from going from top competitive bodybuilding to not working out at all was a big mental
Yeah,
hurdle.
it takes a big toll on you because I mean it's not for everyone to cope with that. Go all the way from up to bottom, but then I believe at that time you start finding yourself this passion for coaching, and it was that time that you start coaching.
Well, I mean, so I started competing at 18. The first couple years I was coaching, but just for fun. I was just helping my friends. I was just, and then after the couple years, my friends were like, you're really good at this. Like I went to school to be for dietitian, but it doesn't teach you about condoms. But they're like, you have a niche for this. You really need to do this for a living. Like you gotta. And so that's when I started doing it. But so I was coaching all along, and even before that, I was coaching pretty heavily. Um,
But not professional, you like charging. You're not charging at that point. You're just doing for friends, right?
The first 2 years. So from 18 to 20 years old, I wasn't charging, and then at age 20, I started charging. So by that time, yeah, I was already coaching pretty heavily for 9 years, and so when I was making my living from bodybuilding, when you could make a living, a few $100,000 a year from contracts, I also kept up with coaching because I get bored easily. I cannot just a lot of people were just satisfied with the money they made, and that's all they did. And I was like, no, I want to make more money. I get bored. I like working. So I would always work, more jobs than that too. I'd help my dad out even with our restaurant business we had growing up. And so, yeah, it was a rough deal. And,
But after the surgery, after the 2 years rehab and everything, then you never went back to stage again, right? That was your retirement, that surgery, that second surgery, right?
no, I went back to stage. So after the 2 years, like even after the second surgery, I'm like, this thing's not getting better. I don't know what to do. I couldn't even press over a 40 pound. So I kept going to different surgeons, and they're just like, they would do re-MRIs, and they're like, your shoulder's fixed. They're like, we don't know what's wrong. You should be fine. And so finally I did some PRP in it, and it helped. So I did my first round of PRP, and within, I would say, a month or so, I went from 40 to being able to press a 70 pounder. Okay. Then I did PRP again, and then I went from 70 to back to around my normal weight. So then it started finally healing up, and the atrophy that permanently atrophied finally came back. And so I started working out again. But then at this time I was training people full time at Destination. I believe you were there at that time, right? You were there, yeah. So so at that time it was 2000 and
That was 14, probably.
14.
Yeah,
2014. So I was going to plan to eventually get back into it, and then found out my mom was sick. So she was misdiagnosed. They said stage 1, but she was actually stage 4 breast cancer. So I took off from work, and like I was still working at Destination. I kept my apartment out here, and but I pretty much kind of moved back in with my mom because I was like, I'm going to spend all the time with her I can before she passes, because obviously stage 4, stage 4. Mm-hmm. So I was at bodybuilding this time. I was just kind of working out lightly, and this is kind of when I was still healing, getting back into working out. My shoulder was still healing, so it heals all up, and my mom, she passes away, which was really hard because she was young. She was 58.
Yeah,
it came out of nowhere. My dad just retired. They were about to start traveling the world like that, people want to when they retire. And then she passes away. So it was a really rough time for all of us. And so I got back into bodybuilding that year just to keep my mind busy. And I was like, I don't have any expectations at all. I just want to, because at that time I knew the money already left, right? Mm-hmm. The magazines were dead. The big supplement contracts were done. So I was just like, I'm just going to do it just for me, just to keep my head busy, because my head's not okay. And from my mom's passing, and I'm going to do that. And then right after my mom's passing, my best friend at the time, Chris Jalali, he passed away. So it was like, boom, boom. And so a lot of people remember his name. He was in a lot of magazines. He was on a lot of covers. He was a bodybuilder too. He had an oxycodone overdose because he had jaw surgery and he took too much and overdosed on that and passed away. And so that was a tough deal. So I was like, and you know how bodybuilding kind of, if you're angry and mad or sad or, depression, you could put that all into bodybuilding, and that takes, a lot of, for a lot of people, that takes, a lot of that away to give
Mm-hmm.
them
Yep.
something to do. So I got back into it that year, and I was surprised how fast my body came back. I was a lot bigger than I was in that 2 years. My muscle came back, and then I had this new extra size and thickness. I think that was just due to um, aging, like muscle maturity. Going from age 29 to 31. Just each one of those years, that's an important time in bodybuilding where your muscles mature a lot. So I had a thicker look, and I was a lot bigger. So I competed 3 times that year, and excuse me. The first show I did was Chad Nichols' show, and it was Peak Muscle Fest because Chad Nichols' mom, that was Ronnie Coleman's coach. If people don't know who Chad Nichols
Mm-hmm.
is,
Yep.
and he's Big Rami's coach too. He put on a show. It's called Peak Muscle Fest, and his mom passed from cancer too, breast cancer. So all the proceeds went to cancer. So I was like, I'll diet 6 weeks and do that one. So I haven't done anything in 2 years. I mean, I didn't take any special supplements for 2 years. I wasn't training at all, and I just started training. I was probably 3 months into working out, and then I was like, yeah, I'll shoot to do his show, and it was like in 6 weeks. And
That's
so,
incredible. So you were out for 2 years and you prep in 6 weeks? Wow,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
amazing.
And so the before and after pictures are pretty crazy. But all my friends know my body. I could lose weight really quick, size, and I can pack it on really, really fast. So I did that one. I should have won, but I got second. His buddy got the winning. And then the second show I did was a California show called The Titan. And it used to be John Lindsay shows, and then Tamer El Gundi took over. Um, and a lot of these names might be just people like, who are these people? Anyway, they're just people that were promoters and had the
Hmm. Hmm.
shows and all that. So used to the setup. Did you ever do a LA show out there?
No, only Texas and Oklahoma.
Okay.
I never, yeah.
So sorry, my throat's so sore. So during that time, it was like at a high school, and it was they had big shows there. I mean, Mr. LA, which was a big name to have back in the day, and all that. The back pump up room was a really small little room, and they had a door open in the back, and that would go outside. Okay, this is in California. So I did the Mr. LA twice when I was younger, and this just shows how much bodybuilding changed a lot because I did the Mr. LA in 2009, I think, and then just from 2009 to 2014. So backstage, you'd be back there, and there would be guys outside just handing you business cards. Hey, if you want to shoot with me, you want to shoot with me. Some of them were legit, some of them were not legit, and some of them were, a little weird. But if you wanted to
Yeah.
make some money, you could. I remember going to this guy's house for a photo shoot, and he had a couple weights in his garage, and I'm like, oh, so this is just like a personal video. But it was paying well. I mean, a few $1,000s. So, I mean, you could go to California and compete and get a stack of those cards, and you would have more work to do than you would know what to do with. So I'd usually stay about 2 to 3 weeks in Sherman Oaks. We had like a model's house out there that for this one company, all the models were allowed to stay there for free. It was awesome while we were in town. And there was nobody back there. And I'm just like, what's going on? I'm like, uh, I expect at least people to still be going to those, um, and I'm just like shocked how much it changed. I'm like, there's literally no money at all to be made in this anymore. Because used to, I would go out there and I would stay for 2 weeks and literally do photo shoots for 2 weeks. I would do Muscle Mag, I would do Iron Man, all the big names. I would shoot for them, and then I would do the private sites, whatever, Muscle Gallery, Jimmy Z, all that. And just doing shoots, you could come back home and buy a brand new car for
Yeah.
packing. It's a lot of work with the shoots, but And then it went from that to nothing. And I was like, it was pretty disappointing how much everything changed in such a short period of time. It was like overnight.
And that was your last competition?
No, I did nationals that year. Also, that's when they did they were doing the road to the nationals up a destination. You know, Nick, the
Mm-hmm.
videographer, and they were following me, Joe Mackey, and Ambrose. Um, the lifestyle video. Remember MD? They always used to do the
Yeah,
lifestyle
yeah, I
videos.
remember that. I remember.
So I was the only athlete that year they were doing it on. So and then Lee Thompson that year. So I was supposed to, you get the certain nods, for everything to go in there and do well. So I was supposed to go in there as a heavyweight and win the heavyweight class. And still, it was still just going to be an accomplishment of mine, like get my pro card and then just kind of retire. And then my weight was not going down. I added that much new muscle tissue and it just would not, like heavyweights under 225 on stage.
And you were shredded, right? So it was not a matter of not losing the fat or anything. It's just not going down.
Yeah, I mean, it was just sheer thickness. My friends in person, they're like, dude, I don't understand. You were out for 2 years and you came back and you put on such size and thickness, and my weight was not budging around like 250. And I was like, there is no way I can make 225. I mean, I've been able to make some crazy weight cuts before, like 15 pounds in a couple days, but it was water weight. There was no water weight here, so I was like, I'll just roll with it and go into super heavyweight. And when they follow you going into a show for the winner or whatever, and I told Lee that year, which was a chairman at that time, I was like, dude, I didn't make weight. I was like, I'm over it. He's like, gosh, man. So I already knew I wasn't going to get my pro card in super heavyweights. Did I look better than most of the guys? Yeah, but you're going against a different size, a caliber of guys. I think I got like seventh or eighth place at it or something.
The guys were just way bigger.
Not way bigger. It's just they did their kind of like at that time. Still, it was kind of like the super heavyweights that were predicted to win that year, like going in. Those
Mm-hmm.
were the guys they had in the top. I was supposed to be in the top with the heavies, and then I was nowhere to be found in the heavies. So I spilled over. I didn't spill over, but I made it over to the supers, and for some reason they I didn't do as well there, whatever. So
When you look back, do you believe that you could have done anything different to have made that weight?
no, it was just new mature muscle that was on my body. And when I started back again too, I wasn't able to take the same amount of, which I never got crazy with the gear anyways, but being out for that long and coming back, I wasn't even able to take that much because my body wasn't used to it. So I was taking it probably, one third or half of what I taken before. So it was just that new, mature muscle. So no, there was nothing to do. And if I would have burned it off somehow, my physique would have looked weird, because it's funny how as you're aging, I used to compete at light heavyweight and look amazing on stage, and then heavyweight, then super heavyweight. But if you try to like kind of go backwards, your body looks bad. It doesn't have a good look to it when you're
Yeah.
trying to burn muscle off. And so that was my last show competing. I did another little state show after that in 2017. That was just out of the blue. I had to do um, a little video shoot for my supplement line, and I dieted 3 weeks. And there was the Johnny Jackson that weekend.
3 weeks.
Yeah.
3 weeks prep. That's crazy. Only you to do that.
So the Johnny Jackson was that weekend. I was like, I'll just do it for fun, just to show people like, you can win. And and I went and I won the super heavyweight class there. But it was not my level. It was a lot
Yeah, yeah.
beginner level. But I just did that for fun. But After that year, I knew I was done and there was no point. And then all my friends and competitors that I was bodybuilding around that time, they pretty much all kind of retired too. A few of them did go, continue to go. I still prep one of them. He's a pro. But, most people realized, hey, like this sucks not making money. Like
Yeah,
most of the
yeah, but
bodybuilders, we didn't have careers where we could support ourselves to bodybuild. So
yeah.
I,
So your triceps rupture came after that that return to bodybuilding. It was how did it go? Because I remember you also torn your triceps not too long ago, right?
yeah, um, so 2015, I had a lot of bad sinus issues. I mean, when I get sick or so, it's like to the extreme always. So I had to have a sinus surgery because I was like sick for a year and no doctors. They just kept prescribing me antibiotics. And then I finally went to ear, nose, and throat. She's like, let's do a CT. She did a CT and we went back in. She goes, Armon, she's like, I haven't seen any sinuses this bad in 10 years. She's like, I don't even know how you can breathe. I go, I can't breathe out of my nose. And all pretty much everything here was just polyps, infection. And then my canals were like almost closed completely. Like the before and after picture of the CT was amazing. She's like, I would do this surgery ASAP and, fix your deviated septum too. She's like, it's going to be a pretty painful surgery because you have so much in there. We have to just scrape out. And, so I did that. And you weren't allowed to lift anything over 5 pounds for the first, I believe, month. And my daughter was about a year old at that time. And so I couldn't even lift her. And my face, I remember, swelled up like this big just from the surgery. And then it was like 5 weeks post surgery. I could start working out again. I didn't. I was in a rush that day. I just got home. I was about to bathe my daughter. I was hot, sweaty. My nose starts bleeding. And it wasn't like a normal bloody nose. It was like a faucet. It was like just,
Oh wow,
it was just like a
dripping.
faucet.
Yeah.
So I text the girl I was with at the time, dating, whatever you want to call it, that I had my child with. I was like, hey, I need to go to the hospital. I have a bad nosebleed. She goes, okay, I'll be home a little bit from shopping. I was like, no, you don't understand. Like it's not a normal nosebleed. This is bad. So got to the ER and they had like blank, like literally big towels of, because it was like a faucet. So they had to call my surgeon. They had to do emergency surgery because, and then I had to get a blood transfusion too, because it was so much blood I lost during that time.
Wow.
So I was like, oh my gosh, like, we're supposed to go on vacation during that time. So it's just every to the extreme. But yeah, and so from all those infections, they had me on antibiotics and cortisone steroids for about 8 months straight. Okay. And a lot of those antibiotics, they weaken your tendons dramatically.
Mm.
Certain ones like Cipro and Levaquin are known to cause tendon tears. That's a side effect. So when you're taking those, they tell you, especially Levaquin, they tell you don't work out. Like, Achilles tendon tears are really common and just, tendon tears. So my tricep, was not even from the gym. Um, you know, but I
Yeah,
tore my,
did you do a specific movement that you immediately felt that you rupture?
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what
So
did you do? What no what it was? It was not on the gym. It was you were just moving things around.
no, so I was laying on the bed. So I was sitting on the bed. It's kind of hard to explain. So I was on my knees, like with my hands spread out like this way. I was usually kind of stretched that way, and they weren't like that. They were like this out that way, and I had all my weight like locked out on my arms. And oh, this is not a fun story, but so the the girl I was with at the time, we were in an argument, whatever. So we were arguing, and she threw the phone at my face and ran by me, and like did like that, and my tricep popped in, and I had all my weight on it. So it went in this way,
Wow,
and
that's bizarre.
so I fell on the ground in agony, like screaming, and I went to the hospital, and they gave me a bunch of painkillers, and I knew for tricep surgery. At that time, I was working like part time as an OR rep, so I knew what were good, because there's a lot of bad surgeons out there, and it's scary to watch some of these surgeons work. So I knew I had to get repaired in a certain amount of time if I wanted it to heal correctly, right? So
Was it
during
was full rupture?
yeah, the rupture, yeah,
Full rupture.
full rupture, yeah,
Damn. Wow.
full rupture. And a big part of it was the antibiotics too, and the cortisone steroids that weakened my tendons at that time.
Man, it's incredible because you lift heavy. You've done so many exercise triceps. You have a really good triceps. So and you tear in the most ridiculous way at home in a completely bizarre movement. That just shows that no one is safe. People try to be in that safe place, not doing things that are risky. But I mean, it can happen with anyone.
Yeah, I mean, most of my bodybuilder friends, when they get injured, it's never in the gym. Like I had one client, he tore his, but I've had several clients do it this way. They tore their biceps bowling, right? I guess when you get so muscle bound, it's just you're just at a more higher risk to tear muscles and tendons.
Do you
So
have based on your knowledge, do you have any supplement that can help prevent that? That will like strengthen your tendons?
yeah, I mean, you got, of course, growth hormone, but there's when I was competing, there was not MK677, which it used to be a supplement, and then it's not a SARM. People confuse that a lot. It's a HGH secretagogue. So basically, that when you take growth hormones synthetically, you take your shot, and it shoots your growth hormone up like that, like a high pulse. When you take MK677, it makes your natural pulses higher throughout the day for 24 hours. So it does pretty much the same thing as growth hormone, like taking about 2 IUs a day. So yes, we were selling a lot of that, but then we had to stop selling it as a supplement. It was illegal to sell as a supplement, and that was around the time where, you remember, peptides were legal. You could just buy peptides off any websites and all that. And then they passed the law to make peptides illegal. And then, but this wasn't a peptide, so I was okay. I just could not sell it anymore as a supplement. I had to sell it as a, research, or
Hmm.
which I hated that, because there's so many of those sites that sell that stuff, research, not for human consumption, and they
But
sell so much dangerous stuff.
is peptide still illegal? Because there is a lot of testosterone replacement clinics that they actually prescribe peptides.
Yeah, so here's the deal with that. It's very complicated. So you or me could used to buy peptides anytime. We could go on a website, buy them anytime, and it was legal. They passed the law. So when the doctors and medical want something, they'll take it and then make it illegal. Um, so they made them illegal. And then what happened, you saw doctors started prescribing these peptides, right?
Yep.
And, we could used to get, what's a normal peptide everybody knows, like a
Or
GRHP6.
BPC 157, for example, is really good to healing.
Right, like BPC 157. So that's great. So these doctors are prescribing it now for a couple $100 or whatever, and you technically, do you know who Rick Collins is?
No.
So he's called the steroid attorney. Um, he's done. He used to have a column in Muscular Development. He still does every month. Basically, he knows anything and everything all about steroids, the legality of it, and that's his specialty is performance enhancers. So you've had so many big cases, and if you get in trouble with gear on a big level, you want to hire Rick Collins, So I'm good friends with him. So I was asking him, I'm like, Rick, dude, like, how are all these doctors are just prescribing peptides now? He goes, Armon, it's actually not legal, but so many of them are doing it. It's like, are they going to go after people? They could if they wanted to, but doctors legally really aren't supposed to prescribe it.
Interesting.
And so, yeah, and so and it's so common because every HRT clinic prescribes
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yep. And they not only prescribe, but they actually advertise. You go to the website, it is there. They talk about like openly.
Yeah, it's crazy. And, the legality of it, it is actually not, if it gets down to it, federally, it's not legal to do. And, he says, like, are they going to go after people? Probably not. You know what I mean? But it's like, if they wanted to, like, for instance, when doctors were already prescribing it, this certain peptide site, they weren't a doctor's office. They were just still operating as a peptide site. And at that time, you could sell for, not for human consumption and still sell it, whatever. So he texted me. He's like, hey, call me when you have a chance later. So this peptide company was sponsoring me. And this was like 2018, so not too long ago. And, they were giving me all my peptides for free. And they were good peptides. And basically, gave out my coupon code like everybody does and all that. He calls me and he's like, dude, take that off your profile ASAP. I was like, what's up? What's the problem? He goes, you could literally get 15 years for conspiracy for promoting these peptides and giving out a code. I'm like,
damn.
Are you serious? He's like, yeah. He goes, these people that are promoting, I'm not talking about from the doctor's office.
Right,
I'm just talking about from the online peptide sites. He's like, people that are giving out codes for all these research chems and all that, that's illegal, and that's considered conspiracy, and that's a 15-year sentence for that. He goes, I'm representing people right now that were just simply doing what you did, giving out codes for coupon codes to and they federally charge them with conspiracy.
Absolutely insane. Wow.
So you got so many people doing stuff out here, and they don't even know it's illegal. It's like, how are we supposed to know this is even illegal?
Yeah.
We don't, like, how do we know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so when it comes down to it, there's not enough research in certain ones, and it's the compounding pharmacies that do it. Obviously, you can't go to CVS and pick it up there, but they're learning more and more about it. So I don't think it will be an issue, but it's just kind of like a weird area right now. And I don't know, like it's just like the regulation of it, because a lot of these compounding pharmacies with these HRT clinics, people think they're getting good stuff because it's a HRT clinic.
Yeah.
And it's a compounding pharmacy. A lot of these compounding pharmacies are faking all the stuff, and they're underdosing it big time.
Yeah, that's incredible. Now, switching gears here to your coach, I'd like to ask you something because you coach so many people from professional to amateur and everything, and you've done not only contest prep, but you've done also transformation and everything. What are some of the things that when you start working with a client, you immediately have that feeling that you're gonna have a good experience? This guy is gonna be great at the end. Is it the attitude? Is it the physique? Or you rather get someone that has really crap physique and transform this person just because this person has the right attitude, right? So, how you can feel that this guy is actually going to evolve.
So my philosophies has changed over the years with my thinking towards that. I mean, I would say between 2010 and 2015, I was pretty much really, even though I always coached tons of normal people also, um, I was really driven towards, top bodybuilders. And at that time, let's say I had a client, like before bodybuilding changed a lot. Let's say I had that client, I turned them pro. We have some sort of agreement, whatever, this and this. I turn them pro. I hook them up with people I know for contracts or this or or a supplement contract. You get a percentage of that, and so you can make pretty good money on top of the coaching with getting certain people contracts. And I was still very competitive. So I was kind of living through my clients a lot too. But during this time, I was really focused on the bodybuilders and being the best. And I turned tons of people pro when it was hard time to pro. I prepped tons of pro people. But as time went on, it got harder and harder for these people to listen. Um, Once the industry changed a lot, and you saw it too. I mean, everybody wants to compete, right?
Hmm.
Like everybody, and everybody has their different reasons. And there's, and I tell people like compete as long as you come in your best and you diet and suffer. That's fine. If you just go up on stage and not give it your all, like that's not okay. But um, it was really hard because people were just not listening as much. And then let's be honest, you could used to tell people like, okay, well, we have a goal. You're going to get your pro card, then you're going to start making money, then you're going to do shoots and all this stuff. You didn't have that anymore. So not as a selling point, I was just honest with people. I'm like, listen, like we can go and get pro and all that, but it's not going to change your life at all. You're just going to have a pro card, and you're not going to be able to probably compete against these other pros. And then your bodybuilding career is pretty much over with. So I started, taking on a lot more just um, normal,
Regular people, right?
regular people. And I always liked, I never had like the genetic freaks really come to me. I would usually get people that never touched weights, didn't look good at all, and transfer them to like something amazing. I enjoyed doing that. Whereas a lot of other coaches, they like to cherry pick the people with the best genetics.
Exactly.
Um, like, don't get me wrong, Hani Rambod is a great coach. Obviously, Phil Heath and all these big names, as we know, as he coached. But Hani would not work with anybody that he didn't think he can make like a top professional.
Yeah.
So, like when I was working with him, I was trying to get my friend on with him too, which my friend was a very good bodybuilder. And Hani's like, no, I don't like his structure at all. I'm not going to work with him.
Yeah, it's a completely different approach from Dave Palombo because Dave works with everyone, everyone. I mean, Greg
Is
is
Dave who helps you?
no, Dave is helping Greg now, Greg
Yeah.
McCoy, and I've seen Dave working with professionals and every person. So it's very you know someone that is very easy to talk with. Doesn't cherry pick, and I think that, as you said, over the years you change your mindset, and now you have more fulfillment helping regular people. Is that correct?
Yeah, me and Dave were very, very close friends for, 15 years, and he helped me prep for several shows. And kind of what was going on was Dave was prepping me, and then year 2010, like Dave would always be like, "Oh, dude, you look like a freak. You look crazy." This some people complain that Dave sends out too many cookie cutter programs, but his structure works a lot better than most coaches out there, just because people want to do all this wacky stuff, crazy stuff. He wants to keep the person healthy. First of all, it's not worth like being unhealthy. So he's moderate with everything, with all the gear and stuff. And I got to a point though where I needed somebody to tell me I wasn't good enough. I needed that extra harsh coaching, because that's what, when I was playing soccer at a high level, I had a crazy coach, and he was very just he would just break you down and just then build you up, then break you down. So he was, I don't know what you want to call it, like he was not for the weak people.
He was very direct, transparent.
Yeah, he was a hard coach. I mean, almost borderline mentally abusive sometimes, but I needed it a lot more harder coach. So that's when I hired Hani, because Hani's never saying, "Oh, you look good. Oh, you this." He's like, "Dude, what's going on? You don't look good enough. You're not good enough. You're not good enough." And that's what I needed myself to go further. So Hani coached me for 2 years. And then I had that shoulder injury. And then my last year, Dave helped me out again when I knew I wasn't doing it for a level. So yeah, Dave's very good. He will take pretty much kind of whoever you are in and make sure you're healthy. Health is first, because we all know the clients out there that, people out there, coaches that will just, literally give people the most dangerous
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
protocols ever. I mean, they contacted me 4 months ago, the Washington Post. Even though I'm not a fan of the Washington Post, they contacted me, and this was before all the IFBB drama stuff that's been going on lately. So they contacted me, and they're like, "Hey, we're running an article on coaches that have basically killed their clients. Like, do you want?" I was like, "Okay." I was like, I love bodybuilding. I understand there's some unhealthy aspects. I will help out if I'm promised bodybuilding is not shed in a just completely unhealthy way.
Yeah.
I was like, that there's good and bad. She's like, yes. So we spoke one day for about 2.5 hours, and we talked about certain coaches that have killed people in the industry, and we all know the names and all that. And then we were supposed to talk another time, and then I was talking to a couple of my close friends like Dave and all that. They're like, "Just stay away from it." So I didn't take the last phone call, and I was like, I'm just not going to be involved. And then I got a text a month and a half ago or so that she's like, sent me the article, was like, "Hey, congratulations," or "Hey, thank you for all your help. The article's out and everything." I'm like, "Oh shit, is my name in this?" And because I never gave the person permission. And then, just weeks before this, they let out all the sex scandal stuff with the IFBB and the Manions and all that. And, the Manions, that's their deal. They can't control what all these promoters are doing and all these other people. Because, when I was competing, I experienced that. I had judges that would contact me before shows and solicit sexual favors for placings. That stuff went on. I mean, there was gay judges, and they did that. And then the women dealt with, all of the sexual stuff too. it's not like they're holding a gun to the person's head, but if you're put in a situation, like let's say a woman's doing a photo shoot, da 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 da, and the male photographer is like, hey, well, it'd look good if you do this. And so they're putting a girl in a situation. I get both sides. And like, this is this girl's passion to turn pro. And they're put in a situation, they're like, well, if I say no, I know I'm never going to turn pro. But if I do it, like, it's like against my morals. But so they put a lot of people in those type of situations, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about promoters, photographers, and that just went on a lot, unfortunately. We had one of our own promoters here that did it a lot. So he even admitted to it afterwards, after he separated himself from the IFBB, all the corrupt stuff that went on, which people don't know. So that article went out, and that one went out, and then it's like now they're trying to take down the IFBB with all these different articles with the with the whole deal. But that was
Now,
on that tangent.
Armon, if you could give an advice for someone that is trying to find a coach to help them uh, to get better and perhaps even do their first competition, what would you advise them to look at when it comes to selecting a good coach? Is it the reputation of the coach? Is it the pricing? Because coaching price varies from 300 to $5,000. Right? We know that it varies a lot. So, what are some of the things that people should look at when they try to find a coach?
I mean, that's probably the most difficult thing for people because it's different from people that's been in the industry than new people coming in. Like people coming in, they don't know who's who.
Exactly. Yep.
You go on Instagram, everybody's a coach.
Exactly.
It's like, what do you do? So with my coaching, I've done it successfully for about 18 years now. It's real successful at it, and that's been my living. And so I built up a reputation. And when they're looking for a coach, it's so hard because, like myself, for instance, like I got to a certain point where so many people compete now, and so many people want to compete. It's not them wanting to compete; they want to do it for all the other reasons, for the pictures on social media, for, hey, I'm doing a competition, for the attention. And so, it goes both ways because when someone comes to hire me for coaching, if it's for lifestyle, that's perfectly fine. But if it's for bodybuilding and competing, I don't take just any client on at all because, some clients are, a lot of clients will just not listen. Like most clients now have a really hard time listening. And you can't say, hey, straighten your act up. We're going for a pro card. Don't you want to, make a living for your family and put food on the table? Because it's not that way anymore. It's an expensive hobby. So when people say, hey, I can't afford this, I can't afford that, I understand that now. Where before it was different. You make sacrifices to get there. So personally, I'm not a fit for everybody. I'm really hard on my clients. I want them to win. We don't go to a show just to get up on stage. I've been told before, even by people like, man, your way of coaching is really hard, but it produces winners. And I'm like, that's the only way I know how to do it. So I'm not a fit for everybody because a lot of people, they just want to compete. They want to look good enough to get on stage and do all that. And if that's a coach you're looking for, I'm not going to be your match because I'm going to make sure you're going to be in the best place possible to win, or to at least go to win or be your possible best. And you got all these coaches, other coaches out here. Let's be real. A lot of people get into coaching, for just all different reasons. A lot of coaches have no clue what they're doing. I mean, at one point at Destination, I was coaching probably about 7 of the trainers and coaches, and they were all, they started coaching people. Like they would literally, I would get them wins, and they would become a coach just like that,
Yeah.
not knowing even basic nutrition. So you got to be careful because a lot of these people, they don't know what they're doing, and it's hard to tell who to pick, and that's a big problem because then let's say you hire some coach, they have a good game, they spit a good game, you hire them, you look up to them, you think they're amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Then when it comes down to coaching, you realize like this isn't something's not right here.
Yeah.
Then after that point, you're going to have trust issues with every single coach you hire.
True. Yeah.
And so that's the problem today is that the competitors have such a hard time trusting the coaches. And me as a coach, we have such a hard time during the screening process. Is this person not just going to be a good client, but are they going to be, because there's a lot of crazy people in this industry.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you have to triage your clients as well because, as you said, you may not be a good fit, and whoever is applying may not be a good fit for you.
Yeah, I mean, that's the truth. I mean, I'll go a little further into it too. It's such it's not like you have to have a degree to coach people. And the people you're dealing with, there's so much drama sometimes. At one point, I took a year off from coaching. I still kept coaching my normal people, but I would have, boyfriends call me and they're like, why aren't you my girlfriend texting? I'm like, who is this? The middle of the night. I'm like, who is this? I'm like, I'm their coach. What? Like, why are you calling me? Like, so you got girls not even telling their boyfriends they have coaches. Dude, I've dealt with the most incredible, craziest stories ever. So, reputation, you got your coaches out there that have your names. Like, everybody knows, certain coaches. But I just tell people it's trial and error. You want to go by transformations. Make sure that coach has pictures where you can look at a client's transformation, like, hey, they looked not good, and then they looked amazing. So proof is in the pudding. You want a coach that can provide all these transformation pictures. If they don't have that, don't hire them, because as a coach, if you're proud of your clients, you're going to post pictures here and there.
Yeah.
You're going to have a lot of pictures. I'll be honest, I have so many pictures I don't even have of my clients that did well, but I do have a large portion. I have hundreds of pictures. I can show people some and said like, yeah, but so if you got a coach that does not have anybody they can show you before and after, like a decent amount, don't hire them. If they're overly aggressive, like their cars, like a used car salesman, they're trying to like get that sell. Avoid that, because a good coach is not hurting for business. And like my coaching people come and then they approach me. I'm not going after people. I might see people at certain places where like I think I could help you get to a certain place. Like you remember Kyle Moore from our gym, right?
Yep.
Like he was going through this phase where he had one person coach him, then another person, and all the people that coached him, they were coaches, and he just couldn't get it. And I went up to him, I said, hey, dude, I don't know you. You can get your pro card easily. That's 6 weeks to the USA's. Let me prep you for it. And you're just wasting your money on all these coaches that, don't care. So we prepped for that 6 weeks and got his pro card. And so just because it's a big name coach doesn't mean they're going to be good.
True.
So many people hire these big name coaches, and I'm talking about big names, maybe like a Chad Nichols or a
George Farah.
George Farah, and I personally, me and George, we're close friends. But George, a lot of people, when people's throwing money at you for prepping and training, you got to know that spot in your job to say, hey, I cannot take on any more.
Yeah, I heard things that are absolutely ridiculous. Things, Tyrus that used to work out at Destination that he hires some big name, and the guy didn't even know his name. They
Well,
met.
so Tyrus. So I was the last person that coached him because he worked with George Farah. He worked with, I believe, Dennis James, and he worked with another big name. And so his friend Steve was like, you remember, Steve, right?
Hmm.
Steve's like, hey, Armon, I really want you to help Tyrus. Um, this is the last time I'm helping him. Like, he better do good. And so Tyrus was very hard to coach because he had his way he wanted to train. And that wasn't the most productive way for bodybuilding, right? So we did his nutrition and all that. We went to, I believe, nationals or junior nationals. So he places third, and that's the best he's ever done. But he didn't go back to the night show, and because at that time he knew he didn't get first place. I said, Tyrus, make sure you go back to the night show. If you don't do that, that's disrespectful to the judges, and they will punish you in the future. He goes, yeah, yeah, and he didn't go to the night show. Horrible mistake you can make. So he still got placed at third. After that, Steve was like, that's it. But before that, these coaches, were not doing Tyrus right.
Yep.
But, like I remember Tyrus one day, he was like, hey, what is this? This coach sent me this to take. I'm like, this is an oxycodone. What coach sent you this to take? He's like, I'm not going to say the name, but it's a big name, so and so. I'm like, no, this isn't gear, bro. This is painkillers. Like, don't take that.
No,
He
it's
didn't even know what it was,
yeah,
and
it's
so
crazy. And that's why it's good. It's good when you have a good relationship, and I think also is important when you stick with the coach. Some people they do one show with a coach, they have a good result, but they think that to go to the next level they have to change coach. That's not true either. I mean, sometimes it's a multi-year plan. It takes multiple years to craft and shape your body. So stick with your coach if it is working, right? It's okay to change, but if it is working, why change?
yeah. I mean, like, who coached Greg? Coached you, right? I think
Yeah,
Greg coached you.
yeah,
Yeah, I remember Greg. Me and Greg grew up in Arlington together. He's a few years younger than me. I remember Quincy Taylor was prepping Greg for a show. Greg competed. He got I think seventh or something like that. And I said, Greg, hey, let me help you out, bro. I'll get you in a lot better condition. Quincy did not have you in condition for that show. And I knew Greg wasn't cheating because he's strict with his stuff. So I prepped him. We only had I think 5 weeks to the next show. It was a Cali show. And then we got third and came in a lot better condition. And, so there's not a lot of these big name coaches like George and Chad, Milos, they will take the money, but then no, we're human. We can't remember 200 clients. I can't have
exactly.
200 clients.
Yeah.
I can't even have 100 clients to prep for a competition. To have 100 clients, that would be impossible for me. Max is about 50 people I could probably do. And at that, I'm on my phone all day.
And just out of curiosity, with that 50 people, you truly know the name and the status of each one of those.
So those 50 people, I let them know from the beginning. I'm like, here, listen to this. If you don't check in every weekend with me by sending update pictures and how many weeks out, I'm going to forget who you are because I have 50 clients. I can't remember 50 names off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I said, if you do not text me your check-in pictures and everything, because once they send me their pictures and check-in, I look at them. I do everything by text because it's a lot more personable than by email. So I go back, I look at their previous pictures, their previous plan, make changes as needed, shoot them out their new program, boom, just like that. But I'm saying if you're texting me every 3 weeks, first of all, you're probably not following the program, because if I'm paying a coach, I'm going to be texting them every week. I want my update. I want, to make sure I'm on point. And so, no, I can't remember 50 people's names. If they're not checking in with me every single week, I will forget their name. And I get on to them. Like, I'll have a client that texts me. I'm like, dude, I'll look back. And I'm like, it's been a month since you've checked in. Why has it been a month? And then I'll remember who they are. But I'm like, why has it been a month since you've checked in?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I had some personal problems. I was like, well, just text me.
Yeah. Say something. Don't disappear.
But too many people get into it and they don't know what they're getting into, to compete. And that's fine. That's why when I do a consult with someone, I tell them their expectations. And I said, however hard you think this is going to be, times that by 10, because you've done it. It's really, really hard to do. Yeah. And you've got to be a really strong person to do it. And so my advice is just like, sometimes you're going to get ripped off sometimes. There's so many coaches out there that they're your best friend and as soon as they got your money, and then you don't hear from them.
Yeah.
So at least pick someone with a good track record. And like all my clients, I text back always same day. You hear from me. So just but then I can't coach everybody. There's coaches out there, probably amazing coaches, but they haven't built their name up. So it's just like, pick somebody you're comfortable with, because the problem with bodybuilding is you have to trust that person on what to do nutrition-wise, what to take, for bodybuilding. Let's be honest, people are taking stuff for bodybuilding. Even if they're not, it's still at the end with water manipulation and all that. It can be very dangerous if you're dealing with someone that is, doing dangerous practices. But you have to trust that person. So don't hire somebody that you second guess and don't trust.
Yep. No.
That's the only advice I can really give, because there's too many coaches out there.
That's a great advice. Armon, thank you very much. And everyone, if you want to learn more about Armon supplements and coaching services, go to armonadibi.com. armonadibi.com. Armon, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, brother. It's good talking to you.
Good talk to you. All right, everyone, that's a wrap for today's episode. Thank you very much. Make sure to subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Stay tuned for more.